Hi there. This video will introduce um, Endnote, which is a bibliographic and note management software. The emphasis will be on um, how to use it for research rather than the technical part. The technical part is covered in a lot of videos that the company provides. Endnote training, for example. There's a lot of other uh, YouTubers that provide training on the different technical pieces. There's, a shortcut version and a kind of deeper version because the software has a lot of options. Rutgers University students and faculty get EndNote for free. There is the last two versions, I think. Yeah, 20 and 21 available for free download. And I will demonstrate um, how this software is useful for my particular variety of historical research. So I'm not going to go into a dive of how things work technically, but what they do for the researcher, so to speak, and the writer. Um, and this is relatively unscripted, so bear with me if I have to reverse and provide a kind of nuance later. Um, so this is the interface, right? And this is your own bibliography on your computer, right? With the data on your computer. And these are the records here, right? And author, year, title, record number. I'll put that record number over here. As you can see, these fields are adjustable, customizable. Um, I have journal name here, which I don't really need. I prefer to add the field of last updated, which is, there it is. Okay, last updated. um, and so this is fully adjustable and you can sort, right? By year, by title, by author, right? And needless to say, you can search, right? Up here, you get to search. You can do simple searches, as in simple search, one word, or you can do normal searches. They call it advanced, but it's not advanced. It's just normal searches. Author, title, year, and or, right? So you can do composite searches where you're searching actually two things at the same time. And you can alter these fields to whatever you want, right? And this is one of the powerful tools. So this is just data being presented to you in a kind of a linear form. But the whole point of research is that the linear form doesn't help us, in particular when you're looking for stuff that you already have. So for research, the two critical components is how do you enter your stuff and how do you find your stuff, right? So what's in the middle is just standard things offered by the bibliographic records and the core functions of the program, right? So, needless to say, and I'm not going to demonstrate it right now, you can do searches, right? And for me, the most powerful, I mean, there's very obvious searches. You find an item and that you think you have, and you deal with it. You do whatever you want to do with it, right? But the the critical power of EndNote is that bibliographic references then can go directly inserted into your Word file. And I might demonstrate that in a separate video, but basically, this database is also a citation system where you enter your data as you want it into a bibliography or footnotes or endnotes on your actual Word file, right? So um, that's, instead of you can do copy and paste, but certainly it's better than retyping references for sure, right? Okay. So where do all these references come from? They're downloadable, right? And that's the first thing I want to show you in the WorldCat video that I made, it shows you how to download references, and basically all databases that are standard bibliographic databases from libraries now have a download in EndNote format or a download in EndNote equivalent format, which means you can download them and put them here, right? So these most of these references are not here because I typed them in, right? It's because I downloaded them from different catalogs, right? So the first thing, you can do your browser search and bring in references as a separate file. Yeah, the system knows where it goes. Windows knows where that a downloaded file goes into EndNote. So when you click on it as a download, EndNote automatically imports the data, which is wonderful. But you can also do online searches from its list of databases, right? How many databases? Well, a lot of databases. And many of these require passwords, some of them don't, right? So I can do Rutgers searches right from here without going to the Rutgers website through the browser. Or I can use, which for me is tremendously useful, WorldCat, which I already have here, right? And these are the ones that I use more often. Not PubMed. I have to remove that. Some of these are standard with the software, but I haven't been able to get historical abstracts to work, right? So the key thing here is with WorldCat is to have the Rutgers VPN enabled when you're working from off campus. When you're working on campus, the system recognizes that you're a Rutgers user and gives you access to that WorldCat data. If you're at home, you need to enable the VPN and ask, the University Technical Services how to do that. It's very straightforward. So the Rutgers tells your computer to appear to be on campus, so to speak, with a local IP address. And so then WorldCat becomes searchable here, right? It's not going to work now because I'm not on the VPN, but it's a search system where you find records. Let me see if it works. No, it does not work. So normally it would work if I had the VPN enabled, and the records would be here. And depending on which database you're using, it'll give you, one record or many copies of the same record, and then you have to select them and copy them over to your data, right? So the online search is sort of like a holding place where you find the stuff you want and then you import it into your data, which is here, all references. All right. And it has these neat little categories of recently added, and obviously the trash bin, right? And so that's how the records arrive, right? In other words, you search for them in the library, right? And show you one very simple example. Um, and this book, and basically, let's see, which one is it? EndNote Web, no, Export RIS, and you download it, right? You don't need to change the encoding. You download it, and that little file contains the reference material that goes into EndNote, right? And it'll show up here, right? Now, that's all nice for standard bibliographic references. In other words, you're creating a bibliography, you save it, and you can see it. You can print it, you can put it in footnotes. That's very useful, but there's additional options which are really the more powerful ones. The first I'd like to mention is that you can attach a PDF, and often when you're working directly through article databases, in other words, if I were doing a article search here, um, let's see, this one, for example, and I will find an article that I want, and I can download the PDF and the reference material together, right? So EndNote is very powerful that way. Or you can just add a PDF. If it's something you had scanned in or you got from interlibrary loan or whatever, there is a field marker that shows, and I don't have it showing right now, which items have attachments, right? And you can see it here in the field view here in the item view, the PDF option, which in this case, I don't think this particular item has it, right? Okay. So let's kind of dig in a little bit, because the powerful features beyond PDF, and by the way, the PDF gets indexed so it can be included in the searching, right? So when you search over here, you can also search the contents of the PDF, not just the contents of the record, right? There's an option for that. So let me find an item that has some notes, because the critical thing is here is uh, I'll just model it based on any record. So this is a record, right? Tells you it's a book, author, year, all these standard fields, right? And you have a summary view, which is just the basics, right? Author, title, and you can change what shows, how this shows, right? Um, this is for attaching the PDF, and the PDF doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be a PDF. It can be anything. It can be tables. I've been able to attach JPEG files that belong to this record, right? So edit mode gives you all the fields, and these are all the possible fields, right? Page number, all of this data came from an online catalog somewhere, ISBN, and then here you see it. I got this from the Columbia University catalog, which is an option in searching, right? And actually, it's a public access, at least when I tried it, right? And then it gives me a bunch of keywords, and these are not my keywords. These are keywords that came with the record, but it makes it searchable, right, for keywords. And typically, in this field of keywords, I will leave whatever's in there because it might be useful. And these are Library of Congress. In this particular case, it's Library of Congress cataloging information for subject. So it kind of merges the subject info into keywords, because that's the role that this is playing here. It's not keywords as in any word anywhere in this record, but keywords in this field that is intended for subject classification. So what I do is I enter a few of my own. And typically it's when I'm doing heavy duty keywording, I'm entering a decade, 1920s. I'm entering some keywords that I use based on my writing. So if I enter IWO or CP or PS, all those abbreviations mean something in my work, and then allow me to find these items later. Um, and the other critical field, look at this. I do have some notes, and the research notes, when you're doing more than just a bibliography, this particular database is a research project that will be with you for a very long time. Um, I entered my notes, right? And when I enter the triple star is a system that I use to annotate things in a very specific local annotation, where I will later search for the triple stars, because it's really important for me to remember that I made that note, right? So this is a brief note on a chapter within this book. And I actually, this was a light reading, and then I went back and read it more carefully. And I actually have the PDF. Sorry, lost my mouse. Okay, there we go. I have the actually have the PDF, so it could be that I have two copies of this record. Um, one that is cataloged because this notice this is cataloged as a book. So what I read within this book was a chapter within the book. So for citation purposes, this is not the correct entry. I would have to change it to chapter by Bert within a book, right? And obviously y'all know what that means. Chapter within an edited collection. But I suspect that I also have an entry with Bert as author of a chapter with the correct information and the PDF. Anyway, when you have a thing that goes on for years and thousands of records, you know those are issues you have to deal with, right? Okay, so the critical thing is that then I can search for these annotations, right? And I can search for these keywords and when I'm looking for stuff. So after years of gathering notes and references, some are references that I save for later that years later, I'm looking for, oh, wait, which one is that thing that I now is going to be useful? Um, and obviously with research notes and keywords, you want to find the stuff that you're using, right? So it's all searchable through the search panel, right? Um, you can do, you can search anyway, PDF notes, any field. You can search for keywords. Where are the keywords? Keywords, you can search for notes, right? And in my case, I'm using research notes. So why? Because notes pre-enters data from the record, and I don't want that. And here in this case, it's the chapter names, right? You can see it on the right. I'll show it. I'll zoom in a second. But you can then do research notes, which is really my data, right? And other kinds of things, right? All kinds of things by year, whatever. So here you see that the notes is pre-downloaded, and this field down here that I showed you is research notes, right? Okay. Now, so you have records that are usually downloaded. You enter your own customization based on your own needs and your own research of attachments, of notes to the attachment, of keywords, of research notes, and also you enter some of these items that are not cataloged by yourself. Sometimes it's faster to do it that way, right? When you're not interested in going to the WorldCat, you just punch in the reference, and then you can bring that data into a different form through searching and through citation. And I'll show a little bit of that later, right? We're not there yet. So still within the manipulation of records, okay? This is one of the more powerful tools. You can do a search, right? You can do a search for keywords, IWO, let's say. And there it is. I have 10 items tagged with IWO, and I probably didn't do it consistently. So there's probably a lot of records that have IWO in the title, right? And I would want to include those, right? Sorry, oops, yeah, proper Boolean searching. So I'm looking for keywords, IWO, or title, IWO, and title, right? And that's the search that then becomes a little bigger, right? And then if you might as well include I'm sorry, let me remove this and any field IWO, right? There, I have a bunch more, right? So somewhere in these records, the term IWO, which is an abbreviation for an organization, shows up. And I would, if that's what I'm looking for, this is what I end up with, right? If I'm looking for For other records, in a different way, well, then I have to do it a different way. But core searches, searches that are very broad that you go back to later. This function here, right? We said that online search is for bringing in records, right? But groups shared by others is a collective piece for collaborating. But my groups is my way of sorting records. And if you remember, I said that I tagged as a keyword the decade 1920s, 1920s, 1930s. And right now I have created these groups that are based on these keywords or whatever, based on these particular searches, right? You'll see here that, for example, bootstrap and Puerto Rico post-war development. That's a composite search. That's, a bunch of terms together because it's a broad search. Others like CLC, well, it's either CLC or what CLC stands for, right? And then notice that once you create a search, let's say I pick 1910s, right? Pick 1910s and it gives me these results, right? But if you notice these icons here, they look a little different, right? And one is a dynamic search group and the other one is just a regular search groups. So for my broadest searches, the ones that I know I will go back to, and I have to keep adding groups here for the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Um, the system, the software actively adds new records. So if I were to add a new item to my bibliography that is tagged in whatever way this is tagging 1910s, and I don't remember exactly. I think it's literally in the keyword field 1910. Yes, 1910s, right? And I could actually look that up. There's a way of looking it up, right? See, it's a smart group, right? So I can edit the group. I can see what I did if I really wanted to, but good enough for now. So if I added a new record that is 1910s, then it would automatically be added to this group so that it's always included. And let's say I am reviewing for, I don't know, whatever, the first two chapters of the first volume of this set of books. 1910s is an important way for me to get started, or within 1910s do a specific search, because you can choose the records and then do a search within those records, right? Let's say I'm looking for some lost thing. It's easier to find when you can narrow down, right? So the same thing applies here. And I just want to kind of, I have a exploitation, which in this particular research is a very specific institutional use of the term. So it's not just a generic term. So there's a due interlibrary loan. So that's a message to myself of the items that I need to request through interlibrary loan. I have income items tagged as income. I have items tagged as IWO. I have a reminder to myself that the next one is keyword is CP or communist, right? And the next one is keyword Socialist Party, which probably also includes the abbreviation SP, right? And then New Jersey items, right? And then the wonderful category of right now and priority and read now, which is deeply neglected, right? So the point is, check it out, 136 items. Yeah, sure. Now I'm anxious. Okay, so my group's summary allows you to slice and dice your notes and your entries in whatever way you want that is going to be useful later, which is the critical thing of using these tools, right? So if I go back to all references, suddenly what looks like a daunting, gigantic list of, whatever it is, 2,900 records, which really a third of these are just are just things that I might use, right? The critical thing is being able to access whatever it is within a huge universe of records, and don't be afraid of making this as big as necessary because it's all electronic data, right? Um, and as long as it's contained within one database that is specific to your project, right? The umbrella has to be wide, but I'm not putting my Mexico research in this database, for example. This is New York City, right? Um, and as long as you have that, don't be afraid to include all kinds of stuff that you might not need, right? Um, but the critical thing is the 10, 20, 30% of these items that are extremely useful. They are going to be in your footnotes, in your discussion, with a page or 2 pages. And in some cases, I have 10 pages of notes for some of these items. So um, sometimes I add here in this field chooser the notes, but more typically this field here, last updated, is very useful because it shows me if I wanted to find something that I know I worked on recently, it shows it by date of change. It's a fantastic tool. And you can search for that, right? If you know you entered something in your records in the last year, you can do a search for the word that you're looking for, whatever, the record that you're looking for, and in the last year, and restrict it to the last year. So there is a way in which you're reproducing here what you do on WorldCat with your own data, some of which has been brought down from WorldCat, but clearly the most important part is what you contribute towards your own research, right? And there's sophisticated ways of really linking these items. Let me see if I ever did this, where you're actually working with chapters, right? So you can be grouping things here based on the stuff that will be useful in a chapter, right? Um, so that's another possibility. And notice the triple star items, which are just notes to myself about these notes are very important, right? And notice that I have one entry here that is Socialist Party and Partido Socialista. Uh, and in my knowledge, 95% certain that when I enter these searches, because of the way that I've done the research and the notes, and the whole point of my research project is that I know what will show up when I do these sorts of searches, right? And I've got triple star items to review. I got my agenda set up: read, priority, read, and urgent. Yeah, wonderful. Uh, and then the right now category, which has nothing in it. I mean, sometimes I put things in there literally and then I delete them, right? Um, okay, so tagging is a new feature that I am not familiar with. And I suspect it is a meta form of keywording, but I'm not going to get into that because I'm not familiar with it. So the rest of the software is technicalities on bringing in data, right, and outputting the data, right? And if you want to see, let me see. No, those are notes. I don't have anything open right now that includes references. So the point is that you pick an item and you're going to insert it in your open Word file, right? And in Word has a module on the menu that works with Endnote. Endnote inserts a menu structure within your Word software. It collaborates that way, and then you can, from within Word, you can control Endnote, actually very powerful controls from the EndNote side. So I'll probably do another video that is on that. But for now, you should know that you can create a bibliography, right? You can cite while you write. You can control how the data is exported. Library of Congress, Chicago Manual of Style, or Psychological Association, right? You can create a subject bibliography, right? So these are the output styles. I'm using this one, right? And you can pick the ones you want, right? Right now, this no biblio thing is I customize this one to not include the item in the bibliography of the to not produce a bibliography in the paper, but it's not working. It's actually it's still inserting the bibliography in addition to the endnotes, which I don't want because they're chapters. So there's a some amount of tweaking to do. Turabian is another one that I've used, footnote style. Uh, this part is takes a little training, and obviously there's videos for that, and you don't need to use it. You can also literally just copy formatted, right? Um, and you can also obviously choose to copy these references to a different library. If it happens to be in the wrong database, if I found the book on Mexico here, I would move it to my Mexico database. You can obviously edit it, whatever. And look at this. I could add it to the existing groups, which is kind of cool, just literally by command, right? I can add it to right now. Or urgent items. What's the difference? Um, and notice that these are not the smart searches. These are the regular searches, right? To add it to a smart search, I'd have to go here, right? Um, Find full text means, and this is particularly useful for scientists and social scientists, where you can just, if you're on the VPN or on campus, you want the PDF of all your articles or X number of articles, you can just say, go to, click on this and it'll search databases and bring in the PDF automatically. And that's like for super contemporary publishing world, right? But obviously historians work with a lot of really old stuff that whatever that then they have to go find, or they scan themselves, or somebody sends you a PDF and then you manually add it to the record. So the find full text becomes your PDF that is being added manually to this record, right? Find reference updates. um, there's one particular in one of the databases where it inserts a space in the title where it doesn't belong, and sometimes I find this useful. Anyway, rating, you can rate them with stars, whatever. You can also remove the rating field. It doesn't show here. It's one of the defaults, but I changed that. uh, and one of the new features is that you can open the record in a new tab. um, so you can do two things at once with the same data, which is way cool, right? And then, of course, you can open it separately in a separate window. And it actually opened in a different monitor. So I'm going to bring it over. See? And you can resize it and do whatever you want with it, and then you close it. So that's the basic introduction to EndNote. And I think grad students should learn it early and use it, because even with, their kind of semester papers, you could create a database that will be not your dissertation, right? Semester papers, and then just download references and later easily create bibliographies. Or you can just um, copy formatted reference and paste it anywhere, right? And sometimes it brings over things that you don't want, like a URL or some catalog information. You just edit it manually. Um, and when you copy the formatted reference, sometimes it's easier to just paste it as plain text, and then you just add the italics or whatever. But be aware that when you format, you have to pick a an output style, right? And obviously here are the ones that it puts in place or that I've used before. So, by the way, this helps scientists with their submissions to different journals that require different formats so that they can automatically format, the system automatically formats the embedded notes and bibliographic material in a paper according to the manual style. So if you have a paper written and you have these references and you put them in American Psychological Association, and then your paper gets rejected, and then you want to send it to a historical journal that uses Turabian, you just go to the paper and automatically say to automatically reformat the references and if necessary a bibliography in that new format, because it's the same data, you just need to reformat it, right? So it's very powerful in that way. And at the very least, if you expect to have a lot of notes, um, then the research notes field is incredibly powerful, right? Um, Now, the one limitation that you have here, and this is anything like this that's a linear database. I'll I'll see if I can demonstrate it. No, I can't demonstrate it with notes. Let's say that you have a bunch of notes in your research notes, right? Uh, and in those notes, you have, I don't know, 2 pages of items. And and let me do this here just for the illustration's sake, right? So I just copied the bibliographic notes into the research notes. But let's say that the research notes goes on for pages, and if you wanted to find the really, really powerful searching of notes, of your own notes, is that you could find two terms in a definable space. In other words, if I was looking for guerra civil, I would want those terms together. So I could do put it in quotes, right? So I search for the phrase guerra civil. That's fine. But if I wanted civil and New York, and only the section of my notes, extensive notes, that references Civil and New York, right? It can't do it. It doesn't index at the level of sentence or paragraph, right? So you can do a search, and then it'll highlight actually in yellow, at least the old version of the software. This is a new version, so it might have changed, right? But when you do a search for your notes, it'll highlight within the research notes where those search terms appear. But you can't search in these sort of sophisticated ways within the notes, right? So when you go to research notes, again, and you can also just do a search here, right? Which is an additional tool, but it doesn't allow you to do a kind of complex search the way a text-based database would do. And eventually I'll do a video on Nota Bene's searching options, which allows you to search at the sentence or paragraph level, depending on what you tell it to do, right? And it's more sophisticated indexing and searching than anything else available and that I know that exists, right? But that's a separate software package. Um, and by the way, if you if you output all your data, all of this data, you can output it into one Word file and use Nota Bene indexing to index it in that other way. And I've found that to be very useful. So, okay, I can explain that later in a different video. So the only missing piece here is for historians is, the question is of archival records. Do they go here? And I don't take notes on archival records in EndNote. Anything that is not published goes elsewhere in a different system. And I can do a video explaining that and how I do it. And this is all published material with my notes, if it has notes, and including periodicals, right? So there will be a newspaper in here where I have visited library, found the microfilm, and took notes, one issue after another. And in some cases, if I have a lot of, if it's like a newspaper that I'm constantly adding notes to, I keep a separate Word file for that. So there's a little bit of a practical choice. If it's 10 issues of a journal or a magazine or a bulletin that I know I'm done with, I put it in here. If it's a thing that I'm constantly adding to and it's really, really long, I use a Word file and I handle it in a different way. So anyway, that's wrapping it up for EndNote. And obviously you have the help and you have a lot of videos on exactly how to maneuver this, but I hope this has been helpful.